What's going on, youth fam? A few weeks ago, we had an incredible One Big Night, and if you remember, we had guest speaker Pastor Trevor Ritchie from Coast Life Church with us, and after that night, after the dodgeball tournament and all that, we got a chance to sit down with him and film a podcast. But wouldn't you know, right in the middle of the podcast, the camera literally fried. And we got all the audio saved, though. So this podcast is going to be audio only, but I think you're going to be encouraged and blessed by it. There was so much good stuff said. So tune in to episode number 2 of the Youth Podcast.
But we're rolling. Cameras are rolling. Audio's rolling.
Can we get a hiya?
Check.
What are we doing?
Who let the dogs out? Okay, so you want to do it?
It's the Trinity at work.
Scotty's going to have a time doing that.
We will follow.
Action. For the youth.
It's for you.
Oh,
yes.
Y-O-U, caps, small T-H. Here we are, an incredible Thursday night we just had. We got a special guest with us tonight. We got Pastor Trevor Ritchie from Coast Life Church, and we just had an incredible One Big Night. Not just here in Tacoma with DuPont and Bellevue and all that, but Yakima.
Yeah.
We're going to call Brittany in a little bit and talk to her and have some conversation with her. But, man, what a night we just had. Let's talk about some highlights, okay? Let's talk about some highlights. Go for it.
Yeah, it was so good. We had our dodgeball tournament. Silly Boys won again. So, third year in a row. We had an incredible message, incredible worship. It was just a really, really great night. Yeah. It's 11 p.m. and we're doing this.
It's 11 p.m. right now. It's true.
11 p.m.
We're still like, wow, it's late. It's late, and we're feeling it. We've been here all day. But, man, God really did some really special things tonight.
Yeah.
And your message, man, was incredible. It was right on time. It was, like, right where we're at as a church.
Yeah.
Our pastor has said this is the year of the leader, and you came in just calling us higher and our youth ministry higher. And, students got touched tonight by the power of God, by the Holy Spirit, and they got words from God, and we saw students break down tonight in the presence of God, and it's special. It's special when that happens. So dodgeball was dope. Silly Boys, yeah, cool.
Again.
3 years in a row. Woohoo! 3 years in a row. But what's a highlight for you coming to Washington?
It's like 2:00 in the morning where I'm from, so the highlight is still functioning.
Yeah.
It was a strong night. I think not hurting my ankle during dodgeball is probably the top. Like right there is about at the top of the. To be honest with you, it's hurt right now, but I'm just gonna say that no, it's not. Being 32 years old, we're still rocking it. 90s babies, first of all, right? And we turned 33, so I just feel like
this is our Jesus year.
Come on. We laying hands. We laying hands on the sick. Come on. It's gonna be good.
Well, we're glad that you came, and thanks for having a conversation with us. You said a lot in your message.
Yeah.
And
I talk fast.
You do.
Really fast.
It was all good.
So good.
That was exactly what we need to hear. You said a line, though, and I'd love to just unpack this. You use this kind of as some framework for your message. And you said when you go after the known will of God, God will reveal the unknown things. You said something like that. Yep. I tried to take notes, but will you unpack that?
I will. Yes. Okay.
Take that.
Ready? Boom. So I feel like we're conditioned when we're children, from the moment that we're born, that we have to figure out what we want to do when we grow up. What are you going to be? Right? We even play house, and it's like, so it's all these things that are unknown to us. And so we get so caught up in, I have to know things we will actually never know until we're experiencing them. That's why they're the unknown things of God, the unknown things of life. My pastor says this line all the time, that if you will do the known will of God, so the things we know God has called us to do, pray, worship, be in the house of God. If you do those, the unknown will of God will run you over like a Mack truck. So it's standing in the highway of what God has for you in your life. And you'll turn around and you'll be like, man, like, so a lot of kids, for example, let's talk to all the teenagers who are in love for a minute. Like they want the marriage, right? But even before they want the marriage, they want all the things that should become with marriage. They want to be we rush things, right? And so like we'll force a relationship that's not for us only because we want to experience something that we've been told since a child, like, oh, it's unknown to me, this must be the person. Rather than being honoring God in the known things, and then all of a sudden realizing that the person that's for you was actually running alongside you the whole time. And so it's those kind of things that, like, instead of forcing all of the things you'll never know until you're in them, do what you know God wants you to do. And as you do that, God just reveals, that's how I met my spouse. Oh, that's how I got the career I was supposed to. And so we're forcing a lot of things in these days. And I think it's, kids are carrying a lot. There's a lot of pressure for them to succeed in school and stuff like that. And I think my hope and my heart behind the message was just that they would be able to kind of take a breath and realize that if God's for them.
Good.
I think so many people are always looking for like a new word from God, or like a fresh, God, do something new in my life. And God oftentimes is like, no, go read your word, go pray, the things that you listed off tonight, the known will of God. And what would you say to someone that's like, God, do something new? We want God to do something new, but there's a tension there, right? There's a balance there. Like, God's going to do something new, but you got to do the thing that you know to do. Right?
And so the first thing I would ask is, did you do anything with the word he gave you before?
Good.
Wow.
Right? So you were like, God, give me something new. Oh, I need a fresh word from God. And it's like, God gave you a word 2 years ago to do X, Y, and Z. And if you had put that word, you said something at the end of service. Faith without works is dead. But you said something about activating. What was the line? You may have said it in the moment.
It was a moment.
Okay. It was gone, but it was good because
Tonight you responded in faith. Now go activate it. Yeah.
Is that a normal line for you? It should be. It should be. But it's because it's that. God gave you a word at one point. Then he has given you the known ways to work it out.
Right.
Yeah. I've got a word. It was unknown to me until God revealed it. I got a vision. I had a dream. It was unknown. It's something in the future. And how you get there is you pray, you read your word, you come to church, you invest in the house, you honor God with the first. When you do these things, then all of a sudden, the vision that he gave you comes to pass. Yeah. So instead of asking him for something new, the question is, have you done anything with the original? Like,
good. That's really good.
So this is a question you talked about this tonight, and so you talked about trusting God when the unexpected happens. And I mean, that moment, lights went black. It was just spotlight. There was, I don't know if you heard it, but there was gasps like in the room, in the just darkness. And so I think not even just for me, but others in this room, as well as this generation and those my age, probably have this question too. So what does it look like to trust God in the uncertainty? Like, what are the moves that we need to be making in the uncertainty, or just, like the unexpected happens and you're left questioning, like, okay, what do I do next? And how do I trust God?
Good.
So here's where I see people, especially young people, going wrong, going in the opposite direction they should. They get planted in the house, they get saved, or maybe they've been saved their whole lives, like those, they like come out and somehow know Jesus, or whatever the case may be. But no matter where you find yourself on that journey, I watch as something unexpected happens in life, and the first thing that they'll come and say is, oh, I can't. And then they'll point at something that is in the known will of God. I can't serve anymore. Why? Oh, because I can't be here every Thursday. Why? Well, and so what ends up happening is uncertainty happens, and then what we do is we disconnect from the very thing that's going to bring certainty back to our life. And so I tell people all the time, they're like, I'm just dealing with a lot, and I'm stressed, I'm anxious, and my schedule, and the first thing they go to cut is church. Right. First thing they go to cut is the community. And so I always tell people, like, hold on. Before you go and think that you've made the correct decision, let's go back to when you were your healthiest. Right. Yeah. When when were you healthiest in your life? I guarantee you were in biblical community. I guarantee you it was right when you started serving. It was like in this environment where God was moving, but then the mundane happens, right? So then and then all of a sudden it's like, well, let me disconnect from this because I need to go figure it out. You didn't have it figured out before you got into church. That's normally how God got you into church. And so I tell people there's 4 things. Are you serving? Good, then don't stop. If you got to put a boundary on something maybe in a season, but I would even caution against that because I don't think it's the serving that's stressing you. It's normally are you in a group? Are you in a small group? Are you reading your Bible? Are you praying? Like those are the things that you just kind of line yourself back up with, and God's word is faithful. So if he says that if you trust him, right? I think we said it tonight. I used Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. Your own understanding says disconnect from this because you're busy. Don't lean on your logic, but rather trust God. And then right. So now I got to say it in order. Ready, and set, go. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. And always submit to him. So you submit to the known will of God. And he'll make your path straight. So he will bring you back onto the straight and narrow path. So disconnecting in uncertainty is the greatest mistake you can make.
I hear a lot of students or just young people in general like, man, I'm just serving a lot. I serve too much. And when I read the Bible, I've never found a scripture that says you can serve too much. But what happens is when we're not going to God's word, when we're not filling ourselves up, we do experience burnout. Right. But that's on us. Right. Yeah. That's on us not being spiritual disciplines and those kind of things in our walk. So I would say to anyone out there that's like, man, I'm serving a lot and I'm doing a lot and all that, I would ask the question like, what are you doing to fill back like your cup back up? So make sure you're doing that. So if you had a question.
Yeah. Also to add on to that, if that's okay. Yeah. I think this past Sunday we were talking about like how much we're serving, especially as interns. We're here all the time. Yep. And you talked about the reason why we serve and like are we serving because we like being here and we like the people we're with, or are we serving because this is what God calls us to do? And that hit me hard because I like for me, you guys know I'm a big planner. I'm like, okay, I got it. This has to happen. And so I really had to take a step back and say like, why am I serving? Is it for my own fulfillment, or is it because this is what God has called me to do? And when I made that connection, serving instantly became easier. It instantly became like fulfilling because I was like, I'm not doing this for myself. And even like I'm getting filled by serving, and I don't have to go. Obviously, you should read your word and do all these things. Right. But this is like another step to taking to fulfill myself, and so like that. That is what you were just saying. Yeah,
the Bible says when you refresh others, you too will be refreshed. Yeah. So absolutely.
Yeah, and then my other question. Okay. Tonight we're talking about spiritual gifts. How do you identify spiritual gifts, and how did you identify your gift specifically?
So, one, I think we all have natural gifts that God has given us. Mm-hmm. So even before we move to spiritual gifts, I think we have to just get comfortable in allowing and watching God amplify. I think tonight I used the word like allow him to breathe on what would come natural and allow him to bring the divine to it, because then you can start to see him like bring a capacity that would not be possible. Yeah. And so just allowing him to do like take whatever he's given you and allow him to move through it and then give him honor for it. And then when we move into spiritual gifts, I love that we used Exodus 31 tonight. We call him my man Lil Bezzy. But it said he was filled with the Spirit, and then he was given wisdom, gifts. And so what was it? It wasn't that they weren't inside of him. And there it is speaking about an amplification of that when he was filled with the Spirit, God then brings a wisdom and a gifting that wasn't there before. And why? Because he was filled with the Spirit. So when you get to spiritual gifts, and we read like our Heavenly Father gives good gifts, that if you ask for it, he'll give it to you. And so it's like, well, where do you want to see God use you? Where do you have the childlike faith to believe that God can work through you? Healing is something you want God to use you to heal the sick. Do you have the childlike faith that you'll lay hands on somebody that's sick, that God will work through? It has nothing. We're all just vessels. It has nothing to do with us. But if I believe that if God can use anybody, I'm at the point where I'm like, well, if you'll use a guy like me, well, then let's do it. So I think it carries over from the world. So we're like, well, what gift do you have, or what gift do I have, or is mine more developed than yours, or has God? And it's just like, but then now it's become about us. Now we're comparing gifts, rather than can I just be used to help? And I think if we check that and we say, any gift that God gives me, I have it to use for others. To bring healing, to bring hope, to bring restoration, to bring freedom. Man, I don't think there's an end of. There's a whole list in there. You want to prophesy? If you're prophesying to puff yourself up, right? So those who will humble themselves will be exalted. If you're humbled enough at the feet of Jesus to say, Jesus, you can use me, and we just go down the list. You want visions? I say ask. You never heard to ask,
right?
Yeah.
So,
practically, shout out to the first lady of this house, Pastor Sheila. She asked the question, what's your bother?
Ooh.
What's your bother? Like you just said, you're a planner. You have an administrative gift. That is a spiritual gift. And when things are out of order, I see it on your face. When things are, there's a bother there.
Yeah.
There's this is not right, but you use your gift in God's house, you get fulfilled. And you just talked about that. Right? Like, what is your bother? Is it seeing someone that's sick? Right. Does your spirit leap? Is there like I have to go pray? Is there an administrative gift, like your faith? You have a leadership gift. You're going to lead people.
Right.
And you see a lack of leadership in a room, and you don't just kind of watch the room. No, you step in and you take control of the room and you lead it. What's your bother? And you lean into that, and God will he'll add his super to your natural, and God will amplify. I love that word. He'll amplify your gift in those moments. Yeah. And that's the cool thing about God. When you give, you're not losing, you're gaining. You are when you give of yourself, when you give of your time, when you give of your gift, you are only gaining in God's eyes. Everything's backwards in the kingdom. So that's so good. So any last questions for Pastor Trevor before we call Brittany? I want to call Brittany real fast because they just had a killer night, and I want to get her on the FaceTime. And I hope she answers. It's 11:19. I don't know. She's married. Reed's probably sleeping. He gets up early. He works we'll see. We'll see.
In. Look.
Oh, she's awake. She's awake. I'm awake. Okay, Britt, you are here. We are on a podcast. I'm going to turn you around so the camera can see. Will you just talk into the microphone? We can hear you. Just talk to us about Yakima tonight. You just had a killer night.
Guys, it is unreal. I mean, I can't even put into words what God did tonight. We had record numbers. I mean, we were pulling drapes. We were setting out chairs.
Let's go.
God just moved in a big way. And I mean, we had the greatest dodgeball tournament. Shout out to the Brawlers who took the dub.
The Brawlers.
Fun. And so it was an incredible night. I mean, I couldn't have done this by myself. We had interns who were inviting like crazy. So shout out to Callie, Lily, Romero, Kaden. I mean, you guys went out to your schools. You were flinging flyers if it was money. And literally tonight would not have been possible without all the hands that went into it. But I'm telling you, it was unreal what God did tonight. It was absolutely incredible, and I'm just in awe of all that God did.
That's incredible. You crushed it, Brittany. You absolutely crushed it. Will you just close this podcast out just real quick? I'm going to ask you on the spot question. I think tonight you busted through some leadership barriers in your life. This is the year of the leader at our church, and PK every single weekend is calling us higher. I mean, we're doing everything we can to raise up leaders this year. And I think tonight, I think you feel it, you busted through maybe some thoughts where you thought you couldn't maybe, or is this even going to work? Or, man, I'm spending a lot of time doing this. Will you just encourage someone out there that's going to be watching this? What did you do? How did you bust through some lids that you busted through tonight? Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, this has been, Pastor John, this has been kind of an uphill battle. And trying things out at One Big Nights and it not working. And I think one of the things that I was just reminded of is like when we do events, when we do anything, I mean, we're partnering with God. And I think a lot of times we can put the pressure on ourselves to feel like we're the ones, if we don't do this, like it's not going to work. And I think my prayer this week was just simply this, like, God, I've labored, like we've gone out, we've gone to schools, like I've gone out and I told the interns, bring friends, invite friends, we've done all the things, but at the end of the day, like you're going to bring the people. We've done all the hard work, but you get the glory for this. And I think the biggest shift in my mind was just recognizing that I do what I got to do, but I'm partnering with God. And when I partner with God, I mean, there are things that are going to happen that I could have never planned, that my brain could have never put together, or all my ideas couldn't have made happen. And I just want to say, when we partner with God and we allow him to help us be the hands and feet, man, we partner with God Almighty, it's going to happen. And it's going to be an incredible night. And God's going to move in your life. So we're in the year of the leader. And I just want to remind us, like, partner with God. Bring him in. Because at the end of the day, like, he's making this happen. Yes, we're inviting. Yes, we're going out. Like, let's do our part. But when we bring God in, I'm telling you, there's just things that only he can do. And honestly, I was relaxed. I went into this night prayed up. Like, we were praying for the night. We were ready to go. And I allowed God to do what he can do. And I came in relaxed, and we were expectant, and we were believing. We set up for us to be able to have more students and pull drapes, and we were believing big. And I think when we partner with God, I mean, we can move mountains.
And you moved some mountains on the east side, and what I hear you saying is you were operating in the known will of God. You were doing call back. You were doing exactly what we talked about tonight. Like, you knew what to do, and you did it. You did the spiritual disciplines. You invited God in, and God showed up. His divine met you. So, way to go. Shout out to Yakima. We love you. Woo. We love you. I just hung up. Whoops. I literally just hung up on her. She's gone. What do I do? Okay.
You call her back.
We're going to end this podcast right now. Do I got to call her? We got to end this. This is episode 2. Any last remarks you want to say? Anything?
Y'all killed it. Your team. Lead X is as legit as it sounds, because that's a boss name. I was like, what? The first time I heard it, I was like, what's going on? This is Mission Impossible stuff. But y'all are doing, you won't regret this season. And it doesn't make sense to people. What other people say that you're giving up, you're gaining.
Yep.
And so keep doing what you're doing, because you set the table tonight, and children walked in, and I love it. We sat here and we talked about just recapping everything that happened in the room. And what I love about God is there's stories you can capture, but so much more happened in the room. Right. You guys set the table tonight. You sacrificed. You took the time. You did all of that. But at the end of the day, kids were healed tonight. Yep. Kids received salvation tonight. Yes. But it happened. But if nobody takes the time to realize that there is a lost world, and there's a generation you're fighting for, and I love it. We fight together in this house, right? Yes. And I feel like a part of the family. You guys have did a killer night, but just the way that you lead together, the way that you love together, there's something special on this house. And I know it goes from the lead pastors down. Pastor Kevin and Pastor Sheila are some of the greatest in the world. Yes. But they has continued through Pastor Jonathon, and now watching the next generation lead. Y'all make hell nervous. And I like it. And so y'all just keep doing what you're doing. Amen. People are blessed by it. The next generation is blessed by it. And y'all are leading strong. And it was an honor, not just to be on the podcast, but and be episode 2. When this blows up, I was on episode 2.
Let's go. Let's go.
But y'all killed tonight. And I'm grateful to be a part of all of it. So.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. Thanks for spending time with us, away from your family and your house and everything. But without further ado, I think we're finished. Episode 2 is complete. Thanks for tuning in to the Youth Podcast. Adios.